make a blocky move around the screen using the arrow keys. But we ran into the problem of knowing when blocky went off the edge of the screen. And when that happened, you couldn't just bring him back, he disappeared. So what we want to do in this tutorial is show you how to add code to Blocky that constantly checks for his location on the screen. One of the things, the game does many things in the background while it's playing, but one of the things it always does is it always checks to see the location of Blocky. And you can tap into that by writing code that pulls that information from the game and then has Blocky react to it based on where he is on your screen. So before we write the code, I'm going to open up the scene here. We're not changing anything on the scene, but I just wanted to talk about the coordinate system that Stencyl uses. And it's an XY coordinate system with the origin in the top left corner. So the coordinates of this corner are x is equal to 0, y is equal to 0. And because, if you remember, we originally set our game to a width of 640 and a height of 480. That means that down in this corner, x is still equal to 0, but y is now equal to 480. If we go to the top right corner, x is now equal to 640, but y is equal to 0. And down in the bottom right corner, the coordinates are 640 by 480. X is equal to 640, y is equal to 480. So at any point in the screen, you can tell where Blocky is within those range of coordinates. Now, Blocky also has some internal coordinates. Not really coordinates, size, but it works the same way. The origin for an actor is at the top left corner here. So this up here is 0, 0. And Blocky is, his size is 32 pixels by 32 pixels. So down here, the coordinates, so to speak, are 32 by 32. Up here it's x is equal to 32, y is equal to 0. You get the idea, or I should say, height and width. But it works the same way. So what we're going to be able to do is, using some simple math, be able to check where Blocky's located on the screen. So with that said, let's go and add some code. So if I go to Actor Behaviors, I'm going to open up our Blocky code. Here's the code we wrote in the last tutorial. And what we're going to do is we're going to add another event. Another basic event and another when updating event. And we'll call this one check location. You can call these whatever you want, whatever makes sense to you. There's no hard and fast rule. It's just whatever helps you, keep track of things. So we have another loop here that's constantly running in the background, checking on things. So what we wanted to do in this block of code is to check for the location of Blocky, and if Blocky's starting to slide off the edge of the screen, we want it to fix that. So the first thing we're going to do is add an if block, and then we want to check for the location of x. Let's say in this block of code, we're going to check to see if Blocky is sliding off the left side of the screen. So to do that, I need to find the x coordinate of Blocky, where Blocky currently is on the screen, and to see what its location is. So to do that, I'm going to have to actually construct a block of code. Okay, I'm going to grab this, and then I'm going to go up to Actor under Position, and I'm going to grab this block of code. Now if you notice, this block will fit into here. It's the same shape. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to construct this block of code using other blocks. So for example, notice how this is a rectangle. I know it to fit in here because that slot is also a rectangle. So I'm going to grab this and slide it up, and when it highlights in white like that, I can let go and we'll slide right in there. So what we're doing here is we're saying check to see if the x coordinate of self, or the x coordinate of Blocky, is less than 0. If x is less than 0, that means that the left edge of Blocky is sliding off the left edge of the screen, and as soon as that happens, we want to fix it. So how do we fix that? Well, I'm going to go back over here to position, and I'm going to grab this set x code block, slide it in there. I'm going to say set x to 1 for self. So in a way, we're asking the code of your program to fight the user input. So if Blocky reaches the left side of the screen and the user insists on holding down the left arrow key, our code will constantly override that and will constantly reset the x position of Blocky back to 1, so we can't slide off the edge of the screen. So let's go to the next one. Let's check to see if Blocky is sliding off the right side of the screen. And this gets a little trickier because if you remember, the origin of the actor is in the top left corner. So if we're going to check to see if the right side of Blocky is sliding off the right side of the screen, we have to take into account the width of the actor. So we're going to have to construct another block of code. So I'm going to start with a greater than. So we're going to see if the x coordinate of Blocky is greater than the width of the screen. So I'll start with that, and I'll go back to actor, position, and again I'll grab this. We want to see if the x value of self, or the x value of Blocky, is greater than what? Well, here's where we have to construct something and do a little bit of math. So we're going to go to numbers and text and grab this. Then we're going to go over to scene, okay, because we want to find out what the screen width is. Yes, we could just type in the actual number. We know the screen width is 640, but you want to be able to write code that you can reuse in any application. So we're going to write this in a way that we can copy and paste this code into another game with a different actor size and a different screen size. And that's just, it may be harder to initially write the code, but in the long run it saves you a lot of time because you can just reuse the same code you've written before. So I'm going to take screen width, I'm going to slide that into here, that first block, and then what am I going to subtract from the screen width? I'm going to get the where is it? Position. Grab this, and if I click on that instead of X, well, that's not what I want, sorry. I want to get properties, sorry. Width of self. So that will automatically grab the width of Blocky, or the width of the actor, and it will subtract it from the screen width. I'm going to take this whole block of code and slide it in here like that. Now I'm just going to grab this and slide it in there, and that's the condition we're checking for. We're seeing if the x coordinate of Blocky is greater than the screen width minus the width of self, or Blocky. Now if you notice, I grabbed this wrong bit of code, and I don't want it just hanging out there. So what I'm going to do is I can either right click on it and say remove, or I can just drag it up to the trash can here to get rid of it. Okay, so what are we going to do if Blocky is sliding off the right side of the screen? We're going to go back to actor, position, and we want to set the x value to something that goes in here. So what we're going to do is we're going to construct another block. I'm going to go back to numbers and text, grab this, and we're going to want to grab this code block right here again. We could build it again, or I could just say copy, paste, so I don't have to construct that whole code block again. I'm going to set X to that. Okay, so I'm going to take the screen width minus the width of Blocky, subtract 1 from it. So we're going to force him back to the left as he tries to slide off the right of the screen. And now I'll slide this chunk of text, whoop, if I can grab it right up in there. Okay, now go back and do the Y coordinates. And we're going to go back to flow, otherwise if. Okay, now this is the exact same as the Y one, so I'm just going to copy this bit of code again, copy, paste, slide that in there. Instead of X, I'm going to change this to Y. If the Y of self is less than 0, I want to, let's copy this. Again, I could have just dragged it over, but I wanted to show you how to copy and paste. Set Y to 1 for self. Okay? And one more otherwise if. So I'm going to grab that, and this time we're going to be checking to see if we're going to do the same thing we did here. So maybe we'll just copy that. Go down here and paste it. And we'll change X to Y. And instead of screen width, it's going to be screen height. And instead of the width of self or the width of Blocky, it's going to be the height of Blocky. And we'll do the same thing. We'll copy this, paste, drag that in, and I'm going to set Y to screen height minus the height of self to -1 for self. And there we go. So let's save that and test it out, see if that works. So here we go. Oh, there we go. It stops on the left side of the screen, stops on the right, stops on the top, and stops on the bottom. So that's how you check the location of your actor to make sure that he doesn't go off the edge of the screen.